Alright, whatever. Yeah, okay, what? It's Alright, it's kind of, well, not really, but oh, that's good. Yeah, but I seemed like yeah, whatever. Okay, so this is really dumb, but state of Louisiana sent me this letter on 14th. I just got home from the dermatologist for oncology, you know, terminal cancer that I have. So I'm not supposed to be off Medicaid. And on the 14th, because I wasn't informed at all, the state had been not sending me letters or anything, but I did find some notices on my account portal that has text messages down, and you can't request text messages or emails. So they didn't notify me at all. I'm not going to say it's entirely intentionally, but I'm definitely going to leave that open as an option because the person I spoke with, they didn't know what was going on either, clearly. Just that apparently Social Security had, quote unquote, told them that I was no longer receiving Social Security, which isn't possible, by the way. You die and then you lose Social Security. I'm not dead. I can't lose Social Security. It's always going to be used for something. Doesn't matter what. It's from Treasury. The whole purpose is it's the only way the United States injects currency into the economy. I'm the reason inflation goes up. And that's a good thing. 1-0 inflation. Then you get deflation. And then, all hell breaks loose. So you get old people and people like me. And we're the only ones who get currency. It doesn't go away. I've not received any letters that indicate it goes away. I'm actually about to get more money because Congress said I will. On top of the more money we get every single year, which isn't actually enough to beat inflation. It's always way, way less, but which is why we're so impoverished. But we don't lose our money. And I'm receiving this convoluted denial of Medicaid benefits that in the same letter itself, on different pages, contradicts itself. It's sad and pathetic. It's not a software error. It's no one put any effort into this at all. It's really stupid, and I feel kind of bad for their staff because of what I'm gonna show everyone, because I'm gonna need to in order to contact the congressman after this, or probably during this. I don't know if I'm gonna split this up in order to place a phone call or not, because I don't know if they're actually gonna pick up. I know they know who I am. We have a working relationship enough. We always have. I have friends who work on their committees. It's not like people don't know each other in this district. Everybody does. It's kind of dumb to think we don't. I'm not involved. Probably never going to be involved. But that's, not my part to play. But for someone like this is why they have jobs and get paid as like employees, instead of just receiving donations from me because I like them, like Scalise, and people Scalise says to donate money to, basically. And like, if Ludlow's still in office, I think probably her too. The senators asked us not to send them money, but So it's like you've been denied or closed. And on the 14th, when I spoke with the individual, which I was only able to speak to through the LDH because their line actually hangs up on you, because I was transferred and still connected to Aetna Better Health, which, my Medicaid is federal, so even if other people have Medicaid through a state program or something, that's not how it works for me. I'm like the original recipient of Medicaid, the type that, FDR created it for. That type of Medicaid, like the type that they have in existence to have federal law enforcement go sent after you for, stealing money and stuff. Not the type for states to decide like what someone gets to have or not have type, but the blank check, like just this type of thing doesn't happen to people like me because it kind of doesn't make any sense for how it could. It's one of those. Obviously, this isn't supposed to. It's just not in anybody's benefit. I couldn't see it being something that a state lawmaker could possibly happen. Like, that's how confident I am in it, just because in the past I was very stressed out about this type of a thing, like probably everybody is in my situation, just because we don't believe that someone's not going to try and kill us, and the many times people try to kill us, just because they don't like the United States and they want to protest something and they think they can get away with it, and a lot of times they're just right. They can. I've made it as long as I have because I'm just not the type of person you can do that to, and people just don't like win like they might think. They're still gonna affect me. They have before. They've almost killed me. I've gotten seriously injured. Stuff like that. Like local law enforcement's been affected. It's never a good thing, but it just is so obvious, and I'm always too competent that that's just something I'm blessed to have been born with. It's not something almost anyone else in my circumstances have at all, and I know that. That's why, small criminals who might try to run protection rackets and stuff like that against the elderly, I don't anybody believe it. I'm very forthcoming about having potentially been involved in that or not. Why do people think I know about it's just minimized for me because most criminals aren't that stupid. Most, I'd say. But sometimes, you have to question why there's so many times that people are showing up to do patrols or something, because someone who's doing something like that still got your name on a list or some stuff, even if they never stepped foot in your state. And probably because they put your name on a list, well, that just, you can't just quietly investigate anymore. Or you'd think, but I'm not going to say I'd actually notice for quite a while. And something like this could, be a part of that. But this is the product of it. A documentation that's so contradictory and clearly erroneous that I end up calling, and very publicly, because that's always helpful to me, just for fixing things fast enough so I don't get killed. Since that's always something that's important for someone with cancer. I mean, they found a tumor just the other month, still dealing with that. I think that's all in the clear, but if that had been a month from now, I think things would be my level of stress would be a lot different. Just because closing someone like mine self's Medicaid is just not supposed to be possible. That's initially being afraid of that possibly happening, it was proven to me that it can't, because there's no way for me to apply for Medicaid in the first place at all. I can't be separated from it. I am it. It's the baseline healthcare in the United States for everybody. You're not on TRICARE when you're on TRICARE. You're on Medicaid, and your insurance card says TRICARE. The United States only has Medicaid and has contracted insurance providers that provide different services depending on what the United States needs. But we control everything. You can't operate as an insurer unless you're one of us, which means you're underneath the Department of or the Administration, Medicaid and Medicare Administration, probably Center of Medicaid and Medicare Administration, probably them, unless they made a sub-agency recently. But they were the ones who I was in contact with to be more reassured of less paperwork than this. Because I never applied on my own. I was put on it. Or it was more acknowledged that I was put on it. Because I'd been on it for, I guess, my whole life, and that really kind of shows. And saying that I'm ineligible because the Social Security Administration told us that your monthly SSI has stopped. It didn't stop. And no, I haven't appealed it, because why would I? The Social Security Administration was very forthcoming and expedient in informing me. Well, I mean, they informed me this month, but they decided last month. So, I mean, me learning about it this past week isn't really that, I guess the week of the 14th, probably learned about it like the 12th or 13th. And nothing had really been fully updated. And I'm looking at my portal, and the portal actually updated. And I now have even more security keys added, which I think is cool. That's happened in like less than a week. Maybe 2 days, probably. So they're doing very good on updating the federal websites so that now they even have an inbuilt Chromium OAuth to me, which I know most people don't have that set up, but I had that set up before everybody got access to like the .gov accounts and things like that. And that was in like 2016 when I was in college. But, that's more of a software engineer thing. So that no one had any reason to make those accounts. And they actually didn't do anything back then. You could just sign into itself. And I was the only one who had didn't have mine made through my LSU email, so mine didn't go away. It even has information about the healthcare marketplace, and I know for sure that I'm not eligible for the healthcare marketplace because I've called before to make sure. Just in case I could get supplemental dental or vision or other care on top, because my insurance itself with Aetna actually owns other insurances. And in the process of them getting a federal contract, they were in contact with me to basically figure out what I needed, and they were adding it to a plan. Just because. And actually, like, in that part doesn't open for me to even see most of the time, but I was able to find it again. I think it only might show up visibly during the enrollment time periods of the year, but I'm not positive. And I was able to refine that through one of the military sites. And I got into that, and then, like, I guess previously, which I believe, since I didn't bookmark the same site, since it changes the URL and stuff each year, so probably automatically. And probably the plan itself changes by the codes and things, so I just can't say for sure. It validated myself as only being under Aetna. And that means Aetna's Medicaid. Or like Aetna, or no, it said Aetna Better Health. That's Aetna Medicaid. It's the most upper level tier is the Better Health designation for them. Which is why it was telling me, yes, you entered all of the information correctly for this person, as though I was like one of their staff, even though the website was oriented towards a person trying to enroll, like myself, possibly doing it on their own. It eventually started showing like Aetna specific like employee information, so it's probably also primarily used by them to on the phone with someone else or something like that. And it eventually showed just that, like, to validate that, no, you are this thing. But I don't think I could have gotten to that if I hadn't have known all the information I did and entered it in carefully and kind of like trial and errored it, which was like a bunch of stuff that I know for sure is correct, because I always forget like exactly what it is for my circumstances, because some of the information goes back to Medicaid and Medicare stuff when I was still on my parents' insurance back when I was in the Air Force and in high school. And half of that was information I was given in person by Air Force staff, because they had to give it to me, because they had to walk around and make sure that all the kids had insurance for things like field trips. And I was the only one who had real insurance. No one else besides like them did, because I wasn't one of the normal students, and like I was the only one who knew that, and I just didn't talk about it because it just didn't matter because I'm in school. But like that was still paid for by my father's firm, just because they could pay for it. But that was still custom, because it was due to my own medical circumstances. But that kind of information, and it like nothing I'm saying would get anybody to the same part. It's like took a couple hours for me to get there anyway. But it's a bunch of complicated, like, you'd get kicked out of the system and like log you out if you did even one part wrong. So you'd have to do every single thing right to get through all the dialogue options, or nothing would happen. It just wouldn't, like, someone would just have to believe what I'm saying, because I'm not doing it again. It's too much effort. And this is saying that I'm supposed to not have Medicaid, or denied, or it says close here, but this is a case ID. Is this the case ID that I opened on the 14th, or that the staff opened on the 14th? So the first page doesn't even clarify if exactly I will not have Medicaid. It's really specifying that the case has been closed. Obviously. And that's dumb. And it's saying I can have a fair hearing and some other things. But, like, at the same time, I don't want to deal with that. But I mean, I could, and I could either, you know, like, politely explain the circumstances, or I could threaten the judge and I could get it done instantly, because I know that's one of the things you can do if you're someone like me in my circumstances. And sometimes the judge will get annoyed with you for not doing that because it wastes their time. If you know, act like you're being polite in court and stuff, because that's not always the correct thing. These judges have limited time. They have real things to do. If it's someone like me and they know I'm as competent as I am, they may literally be there budgeting time, expecting someone to just be pissed off at them. So, like, I'm expressing that because I might do that. Just because I've, you know, been around the bend enough this time that it's been, like, almost a decade now. I feel like that's probably expected of me. I don't think I'm gonna really get away with not doing that going forward. I even remember encountering that when I was little, after I was diagnosed with cancer and things like that. And they would sometimes have, like, an elderly person around to kind of express, like, the correct way to do things, or, like, you know, why the child's being a bit too nice or something, or, like, they're really exceptionally well behaved, things like that. Like, I don't know if they were volunteers or if they probably just worked for, you know, some sort of child welfare services thing with the state, but they probably weren't appearing in their, you know, probably volunteer duties, probably like retired previous, like, Congress or and staffers of them, and like state senators and things like that, who just, you know, oh, it's a kid who's, like, probably gonna be this, okay. Because if the kid was mentally deficient, they would be in there probably throwing a tantrum. And then they wouldn't have to continue to ask them questions, so that they would be able to continue with the court docket for that day and things like that. Like, so I don't really want to waste anybody's time with this, because they're going to have to schedule something and have to talk with me. And I'm actually pretty fucking busy for the next month. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to show up. I've been having a high-grade fever this week. Like, if I don't pick up the phone, I don't do something, I don't want a bailiff showing up and banging on my fucking door. I just shouldn't be dealing with this, especially not this month. And then next month I have my oncology appointments and stuff. I'm busy. I'm a cancer patient. Like, they should just not bother me about this. Like, I wish that was an option, but this is clearly, like, the only thing they're giving me is you have to be dealing with this. All of your hands need to be occupied by this. Because I can't, like, screw this up. I already know that. Nothing. I could get in with a judge or something, and because of my status with Social Security, I could just curse them out, which some people might do, which is why I can do it. Like, some people, they won't have their medication anymore. They might be in some sort of belligerent state. They may have just atrophied part of their leg. Maybe, like, part of their dialysis was cut off. Now they're going to lose their kidney. Or the organ, the immunosuppressive drugs just got cut off. And they're going to some sort of wasting state. Like, that's what you're dealing with. So, like, effectively nothing I can do could be counted against me at all. Nothing. See, it's not possible. I don't think anybody should try to prove that either, because that'll be the circumstance, because I'm the type of person that, like, someone will go after them. Just for like, petty political purposes. Even if I tell them not to, that's what's going to happen. Like, to make it just because that's like oh, because that's what we do, and stuff, like stupid statements like that. Because of the court thing, I can extend my Medicaid benefits until the decision is made by a judge. But because you'd be scheduling with a court, the decision is going to be made on the day that it's on the docket. The easiest thing would be if I can void the timeline, and get the judgment due to the fact that I'm going to be too much of a pain in the ass. That's how things are supposed to work with people like me. We're above this whole process. That's what Social Security actually is. This whole process here might just be for medical errors, or things like with people in nursing homes and stuff. Maybe a nursing home shuts down and they might have a plan that they created specific to them, or to a few hundred people in a home or a community or something. That's not me. And the feds work very solidly with the ethos of you're pulling out, you're salting the earth. And obviously we're not going to let that happen. We're not just going to shut down Aetna in the state of Louisiana because of me. I think I've worked way too hard to help make it workable for me. And I did the same thing with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, but I had to be switched from them. And then we're just not going to let me switch again to anything at all. Like, they put up billboards and stuff surrounding benefits and things that they helped tailor because of directly me speaking directly with their C-level, because I had to. Enough to where that's a normal thing for me, or it was normal. I hired more staff and did expanded other things because someone like me came along, and so, like, the C-level direct to any patient that had a kind of a special edge case, and then that was just part of their day job. well, I mean, I can't become their whole job every single day. So now they get to hire an entire new level of staff. That was kind of nice to see. They even hired more early, like mid to early this year, and they interacted with me through, like, I don't know, October or something, and then they said they had to hire and add another person directly for me, and then I don't know, the federal shutdown happened, and since everything's federal for me, I kind of just expect that that part was still too tied to me, so probably too much of whatever special budget that I still have, because everybody on Social Security is just going to have that, because that's how we are. The United States doesn't just invest money to take losses. And when we exist to pump more money into the economy anyway, but that kind of a thing probably does stop during a shutdown. My actual Social Security can't stop during a shutdown. That's why it's like the money for inflation to happen. It's the whole point. Like Congress's money payments, I think, can stop. But they changed Social Security so that when they, I don't know, somewhere like in the 60s or 70s, it can't. And that might be why certain things like this still happen. I'm probably not going to bother my congressman about that explicitly, because in the past they thought I was, and they prepared a lot of nice information for me and spoke to me at length about certain things. But I don't want to waste one of their staffers' time about that necessarily this time. I know they have a lot going on. I think they already helped me with part of my Social Security in the past month or so anyway, since they did already kind of touch base, and they've just got a lot to do. They don't have many people. I just... But I have a feeling like if I'm not like super careful what I say in a fax, that's going to happen again. And it'll be a totally new person too, because that's just how it works. Not every congressman's office is fortunate enough to have that kind of enthusiasm of people volunteering or taking like semesters to do certain things for credit hours and stuff like that. But ours is one of the ones that's really well known for that, so I'm sure that'll probably be how it will work out. And I won't be younger than that person this time, maybe, like I was the last time when they were just like a senior at LSU instead of, younger than me, since I would have been like a sophomore or junior at LSU or whatever, and they would have been like a grad student. It's that kind of a thing. I usually don't express things typically in faxes in a way that eliminates stuff like that. I write too well, or I am too stressed out, and I don't, and I write too succinctly, or in code blocks or something, and then they end up getting really confused, or they end up having to just give it to the congressman. It's nice having a congressman that was in the same exact major as you and the same college. Okay, there's a free legal helpline on here. not going to say it out loud. I'm glad I didn't actually scan this and put it up, because this is a specific printout for me. Which doesn't mean I should actually respond to it. It might mean I shouldn't. Especially because of things like this. See how tiny that is? Like, I don't know if that's actually gonna like catch on the camera to where it's like, but this box, this is how big it is, like my hand. That's its space for putting in the reasons. Well, actually, no. The space for the reasons is okay. So not pinky, but these 3 fingers. In my hand's a size 6, glove size. Yeah, you can't. No one. The camera's not gonna be able to pick that up. No one's gonna be able to see that. I'd be impressed, but like, you know, no one's encouraged to actually like look at individual frames and waste their time on stuff like that. Like, so just don't. I don't think my camera's resolution is actually high enough either. But whatever. It's like 480p, you know, so. Or, no, it's 360. I think it's less. It's less than that. And it has one line for what the emergency health issue would be. When, you know, I'm on Medicaid and everything because, like, let's just say primarily because of my cancer. That's what makes it not possible to insure me elsewhere. And that was the same with TRICARE, too. With the military, it was, you're just going to get special insurance, which is just Medicaid, but, like, not the TRICARE plan for families. And I was even told if I got married and had kids, they would be on TRICARE and I still wouldn't. But the military does that for people who are important as well, which I guess I already was by that point, enough to where they just didn't have to anymore reference like my cancer or anything. They could just use explicitly service related or expected service related, like, even though it was education related at the time stuff. Because I still didn't work, but like, you know, all that medical things is stuff that they can tell you ahead of time. And since it's not an incentive for me to sign on for anything, it's just more of like this is just how it is. No, you don't get to do anything else, and you don't get to change anything, and then you don't get to appeal or anything, because there's no such thing in the military. It's just how it is. But it, you know, prepares you quite well for something like it's why I don't have a problem with. I'm not complaining about like things being how they are. You know what I mean? If I need something, I ask. And even if it's a process to get it, I do. Because that's just how it works. It structures your like worldview to that instead of something incorrect, like thinking that people don't deserve something because it exists, and other complete nonsense. Which is not something people should just glaze over, because I've dealt with it, even just, even with like the massive amount of this person shouldn't be acting this way to me, shouldn't be reporting me to the feds when I'm the same thing as the United States as an entity, and to where like the feds get annoyed enough eventually to come talk with me and stuff because someone thinks they found someone like getting something they shouldn't have when it's their ass. You know enough about them to, because they probably work in healthcare or something, to in detail manage to be annoying about it enough to like it be elevated to my attention. That's how that kind of like a complaint chain works in command structure, and having to never get to see it in a service related component because I never got to, but see it only in like a I'm retired component. And now that's like I learned about this being like a thing that I could see, but I expected to see it one day, because of like war crimes or something, like in school. Not, is this really happening? This is someone upset that I'm like receiving medication that I've always received, and they're I'm not a low hanging fruit, but like stuff like me losing benefits could always still be because of someone like that, and they never seem to be able to articulate like who should be receiving something. Just that like finding anybody with it is not that person. Even it just hasn't had any like rhyme or reason to it. And listing a bunch of legal assistance offices, listing every wait, is St. Tammany even on here? Alright, it is. Oh, okay. North and Southeast Louisiana, non-Southeast Louisiana, whatever. If you're near Baton Rouge, you probably get to access the courthouse there. If you're not, does that mean you go in person? Oh, this is the LS. This is the same one from LSU. Yeah, I don't get to access that. I've called before. Even when I was a student, I didn't get to access it, and I called when I was a student too, and that was about something that had like LSU related things to do with it, for student related things, and I just called because I was the only one who understood the legal jargon, and I was like asked to. I knew too much. I got things done too fast, and then they told me I was no longer allowed to be spoken to and asked to do stuff by a fraternity. Because like I could be confused as like representing them, apparently. Because I'm not in one. Never have been. But apparently that's a good enough thing to get you banned from ever speaking to them again. Which I don't mind. It was like it existed for like stuff like that. As far as I'm concerned. Like not like this I'm like above the students' pay grade. You know what I mean? There's no way they'd be assistive in this. Like, if anything, they're just going to get super stressed out doing something like this during a semester. Even, like, during their Christmas break. Like yeah, it's like, basically almost Thanksgiving or whatever. Then it's, like, basically almost Christmas. And especially by the time any of this gets scheduled or done. But, they still should have exams. And, like, just someone like me would be, like, something that someone's going to start prioritizing. And I don't want someone like that being used. They're going to focus on someone like me, or focus on the old person they get assigned, and then they're not going to end up doing well in their exams. probably because they're all required to do a certain, like, one thing a semester, or like one thing, just to graduate. I understand that, but like, if the box is like that small, and like the reasons for why I should be appealing is a few fingers width for someone with a small of a hand, directly under it should not be where I'm supposed to then like fax that information to, or like would read off that information to the person I'm going to speak to on the phone, and then it be them, or be this person that I'm assigned to who's probably a law student or something. It's not going to work out. I mean, like, if it said, like, if this was even more customized to the extent where I felt like I had to do something immediately, without involving my congressman, who I think can probably override something in some way, because they have powers that they can do for certain things. Even if they can't do it for everybody, they can do it for me. I'm enough of a pain, like enough of a special case that they've had to handle. They chose to handle, themselves the whole time. Can't agree to like sign service contract with someone and not pull your own weight, kind of a thing. Just how it works. So I mean, they could do something. So that's why I'm like setting things up so they can. And so I sufficiently speak about it while I can, and don't have my medicine taken away, and don't have another 101-degree fever, and am incapacitated or something. Because actually, I received this letter today. Like, I think I had a fever earlier today, but I felt a lot better after they did the UV light treatment, and I've slept some more. So I think swelling may have been reduced, and so that's why I might be feeling better. But I was kind of slurring my speech earlier when I was sitting there with the doctor and things like, so I wouldn't have even been able to speak as kind of competently as I am right now. And that was like 6 hours ago, or just over 6 hours, yeah. And it was bad. Like, slurring was, like, the doctor was clearly asking questions explicitly to denote dates and times, and I was catching myself saying the time I had just spoken of, like saying Monday, when I was obviously referencing a couple months in the future, because I was responding to their prompt on that. It's like, it's how they go through a list of checks on patients for certain things. I know what they're doing because that's just my life, and that's a rare thing for that to occur to me. So that's why I pick up on that immediately. That's not my everyday, so it's not just kind of mundane. That's a very scary thing to me when it's done in that way. That never happens to me. I've had stroke tests and stuff before, lots of times. Even to the extent where they're not sure if I had a stroke or not, because it could have had too many strokes too fast. And that kind of cancels out a major stroke when you're someone like me in my circumstances, and it ends up just being like, well, there's nothing we can do besides wait. He'll probably be fine. Because, like, it being one means you're bleeding out, and then they're going to be seeing symptoms of that, like in you losing like your ability to have like blood pressure and stuff like that, which wasn't happening. So if many of them were happening, even if that happened a couple different appointments, a couple different times, because it was a bit too bad for it being just epilepsy potentially. So I've gone through all that, but like having the checks done for potential like infections or viruses and other, or having recently had high fevers for potentially lengths of time, and still having symptoms of like after effect symptoms. That's not normal for me. So that's a concern of mine, that if I don't speak about something in some way to get on some sort of a record, I won't be able to easily direct people to something in the future. Because it's not like any of this is competent. So I don't think sitting on the phone for 2 hours is going to help just to get me to the same Medicaid personnel for them to look at the same thing that I'm looking at with a case number that they had to clear to get a supervisor to look at to actively open, because you're not supposed to be able to open a case for me. And there was no case there before. So they kind of had to like open something, and I uploaded some files. And I wasn't asked to upload files by them, but the system allowed me to, as though I would have been requested to do it. But see, this clearly indicates that I was never supposed to be contacted to prove that I should have, like, my Medicaid, because I shouldn't have had an open case, because my benefits can't be canceled. But clearly, it's still saying my Medicaid is going to be closed, when there's no designed function to kick me out. So that's why you encounter all of this. I think I looked at these 2 sheets. So the last one was, and this one was super contradictory, because of the deadlines that it says. It's specifying, if I request the fair hearing by the appeal deadline. Okay, so the appeal deadline stated in the first sentence, and then the second to last sentence, the appeal deadline is 30 days from the date of your decision letter. And it's saying you will not have to repay the amount of any benefits received during this time period. Yeah, I go. This one. Okay, if I want to request the fair hearing, I must do so by this date, the 16th, because apparently this one was dated the 16th. I didn't receive it until the 21st. Doesn't make much of a difference, but whatever. That's usually how that type of thing works. If I request the fair hearing, it says when I ask for a fair hearing, I will get a package with documents that they plan to use. It's only after they prepare it. So they're still not asking for any information up front. Even though you'd think they would normally have to do that, like Social Security does when they test your disability initially, like they did with me. And usually they deny that because they don't want you receiving disability if you can still exhaust other options, like with me with like the school and like the military and stuff like that. But once you have to be moved to something like them, then that means you can't be sheltered. But like for me, essentially it's just all about medical stuff through, and nothing actually changed in that regard to me. I still see the same doctors, nothing, which says a lot. But it means that they can't create programs for someone as to my level of need for a lot more people, which means it just kind of it's just not going to work. Basically, that's what happens when someone like me comes around. It's kind of like the end. It's the only person who's gonna have resources put into them, because no one can say well, here's someone else who could possibly make it. That's not going to happen. It's impossible. They're very efficient, but that's why it's unappealable. Actually, the DAO's stuff is down right now, too. So I have no idea what they're doing, sending me something that has statements that the DAO is going to actively take anything, because I was told in writing that the DAO HH section, they canceled out my medical appeals in progress for pharmaceuticals like 2 months ago. Sent me a letter saying that and they have funding, so it's not like, for me they have funding, so it's not even during a shutdown. I know that from experience, because the government shuts down the United States for Congress every single year. It's like a budgetary thing, sometimes multiple times a year depending on the military, and that's just normal nowadays. It didn't affect me. And they sent me a letter saying that my ongoing like DAO stuff was like invalidated, and the judge was like no longer going to be seeing a case, basically, because they were gonna. They saw it. They decided it was stupid enough that they're going to just make a decision on their own and like fix the problem, basically. And I'll call them back. I think I know what that is. That's for surgery scheduling, but I need to finish this. I will try to catch them before 5 p.m. Because I have to make sure this is kind of done before I speak to them, just for due diligence, because that's important. Okay, see, this here, if the decision about your case is found to be correct, they haven't made a decision yet. Nothing in this says that there's been a decision. No judge has looked at it. There's been no decision. That's why this is really stupid. Because I'm staring at my case for my Medicaid, and it's pending. The only people I've spoken to verbally for persons who could have made a decision, because that's what that means in the United States, couldn't make a decision. The state can't make a decision on a federal level. That's why they have to get the DAO judge involved, because they would be a federal judge for me. And I'm not going to say all of them are. I have no idea. It's not one of those things that, like, I probably could ask, but I'm not going to waste the judge's time when I'm speaking to the judge on something like that, because I'm just going to assume, since I know they're a federal judge overall, and when I speak to them, they respond like that, and I've known the consequences of, acting uneasy or anxious of not, knowing of what, like, any of that kind of might mean. So it's just better to default to, like, what I know and am expected to know and how I'm expected to act, and do nothing else. Because if I make them slip up or something, we have to redo the whole thing, and they could have severe professional consequences on them for even doing that. It just, because they can, because they're a judge. They can do stuff like that. They can choose to do things like that. Doesn't mean I, should fail to do what I could do when I'm speaking to them. So I'm not supposed to be appealing to speak to them as much as possible. Not in this circumstance. With medication, yes, if they want me to. When they canceled out my thing a couple months ago or whatever, and they did the same thing with long-term personal care, if they're deciding that they don't want to be speaking to me about something because they know that, maybe they are going to work out something else on their own before bringing it up to me to then slam down a gavel and solidify something, that's perfectly acceptable, that means something might not exist yet. And now they've got me. So they can do something, or they can make something so that, someone like me could be used as a wrecking ball and smash it. And look, it's, this thing doesn't work, and it's egregious and dangerous and stuff, and it doesn't matter that it didn't exist like 3 months ago. It does now. And that thing can take a little bit more time, I would like that to be handled more expediently, but I don't know much about that, and I don't think it's a very fleshed out and solid system in the first place. I don't think my insurance does either, because it seems like I'm accessing it for the first time in a more significant extent, and I think that's what they kind of agree as well, because in the past it was exclusively for like a very specific subset of the population, which didn't even cover all of special ed kids with like the special education programs from all the grade levels, not even into college or anything, but like whenever I got any kind of benefits at school. But before that, like even them, because I've heard that from people like them. That's how that system works. We just weren't there yet to where like people like me could enter to access something new, potentially until probably this year. They found a lot done with COVID. But this about me having to repay benefits that I received that I was not eligible for is, directly against, where was the last sheet, which is also not numbered as the last sheet. It's numbered as the first sheet. And this one's general notice. Which one is this? Decision letter. They can't make a decision. This one is third page. So this one goes off of the general notice. Actually, it doesn't tell me. It doesn't even have a blank insert page. What the hell? And all three of them have a different ID. All three of them have this is fucking ridiculous. And this one is a fourth, but the fourth page was definitely not structured in the fourth page. They're intentionally sending me. They redacted 90% of this. That actually kind of pisses me off now. I would have appreciated to have been sent blank pages like Social Security with the correct markers and designations like Social Security does, which could just be like security paper. the feds are paying for this. Why, like, just print it out correctly. The state probably had to pay for postage individually. So if they're going to send me something, they may as well just send... You know what? Let me just flip over to this on this, and I can see my account. I'll just go to somewhere else in my account, and I don't know if this is the part of my account, but I think it might have been under here that I looked, and these documents were incorrect. Okay, none of these would be this 16th does not correspond to what this is. So they're the same as the ones I did look at previously, which were different than that. So I clicked upload, and here are the things I uploaded on the 19th to 21st today. But this, 16th was denied, but I wasn't like told to upload anything. So here's the first thing I uploaded. Oh, cool, I can't go through it. Okay, so this, I just put in like something I had pulled from my my MyChart portal, but through North Oak system from last month, I think. Because I just printed it out before I saw Dr. Eid at Oshner's Benson Cancer Center for the tumor. And it was found on the ultrasound that was ordered by my dermatologist. So I don't know, this is all kind of blurry because this window is tiny, but you can see the, at the time, future visits from the 27th, because that was a while ago. See, and this is just what I submitted, just because this is what I had that like I knew could be passed off, as I had it in the folder for PDFs that I would distribute for stuff that have to do with like Social Security and things. I probably put it there when I was half asleep, but I put it there because I was like, this looks good. This has Benson Cancer Center. That's important. This could be bad. I'm about to go there. I'm just preparing for that appointment type of a thing. This was like, this is that focus. And the future visits and stuff also are very helpful for this, because if they asked me, which they didn't, for certain information like Social Security could do, if it was trying to like redetermine benefits and things like that, like they had to be told to stop doing, because they're not allowed to waste money on things. And the only way for them to stop doing that was doing it like rapidly a couple times in succession, which was super stressful to me, because they did it at a time when I didn't have any medication or support, and I couldn't handle it very well, and it almost fucked a bunch of stuff up, but it got handled. That was like in 2019. So that's abnormal, but that doesn't happen now. It's just how it's supposed to work. So the state doesn't ask for things like that, but I know, because I'm used to dealing with that, because that's obviously an indicator that I'm on Social Security and supposed to be on Social Security, and supposed to never be bothered about Medicaid. I submit this, and this satisfies like within 2025, like really close by to the thing. What use of Medicaid have I been using it for, right? And what future planned things would I be using it for? They can't tell me that, because they're trying to, for some reason up front, cancel all of my ability to, use health care that I'm supposed to be using. So I couldn't establish and prove why I should be getting it. That's why it's dumb. Social Security can't be cut off because of that reason. you can't just have someone declare that you're not disabled anymore, and now you have to like defend yourself without the resources that you clearly should have, because then that indefenses the United States, because now we don't have currency circulating, because millions of people have probably tried to do that before just to murder their own kids or other relatives, steal life insurance that they think the person has, which, I don't, because, and I can't say that for everybody, but I can for my type of cancer, and it being childhood, that disqualifies you. I don't think that does if you're pediatric. So an older kid, maybe in a totally different circumstance. But see how varying and complicated it can be? That means it's not supposed to be tested. That's not... It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it sounds like government would be spending money. Then that sounds like it's not something that it allows to happen, which is why the state doesn't send me paperwork, rush paperwork by like overnight mail or anything, or by the USPS didn't hand deliver me anything, because that costs a lot of money to try to defend potentially somebody reporting me having be on Medicaid, which yes has happened before a bunch of times. And then you see, different appointments and things like that. Lots of different, shuffled around appointments and things like that. And this is only the past, 3 months. You can see this. And I even had some in person, like that. And I was even utilizing virtual visits. Virtual visit. I tried to get virtual visits for outpatient. Like you're encouraged to do during COVID to not go into the hospital. Well, it's not COVID regulations right now, so I thought I would use the technologically available options that I was ignoring during COVID, because the hospital was open for me. It wasn't for everybody else. I was in the hospital a lot while there was no treatment for COVID, surgery. I'm the type of patient who they don't let people in places because those places are only available for us when something like that happens. But if I have an infection and it's not that circumstance anymore, I thought I would try. Apparently, it's still not something they don't want me to do it. It's not that it wasn't like a coverage thing or anything like that. It was just, they still really want me to show up and evaluate me and do vitals, blood work, triage and stuff. And okay, I understand that. But, I just, I could select it under the patient portal, and I had never been able to do that before. It just didn't exist there for me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I have a fever. I'm going to do it. I'm going to justify that as this, and I'm going to sit there, and I'm going to, because that just is easier for me, because I'm not doing much. I don't have the physical capacity to do much else besides look at my computer and try to take these phone calls. And I was happy to do that and be like, I've never been able to do this before. But, the second after I say I've never been able to do this, the normal conversation of, it's not really for, you're really supposed to come in, type of a thing that I've had since all the beginning days of me being in HEMOC at Children's and stuff. So that's just how it is. So here's my next oncology appointment. Technically, this is also an oncology appointment for me. And I went to that one, successfully. He didn't think that he couldn't find anything necessarily himself, and I believe him. Surgeons of his don't want to click on that. But surgeons of his level But with access that like he had to all of like Ross's team's surgery notes and stuff like that, he was coming in prepared. He had everything set up. He knew what was going on, knew where to kind of like, you know, like if he couldn't find anything at that moment, then it's probably okay. And it'll have to just be probably okay in this circumstance, because even if it would have been nice to have gotten a full brain scan MRI for just that, all this, insurance thing is obviously fucking that up. And if this was flipped and I had to have that still done because he was slightly on the fence, which means he's not going to say anything, because if he says anything, that's the prognosis right there. You're getting prognosticized in oncology. It's, and he would know. I know that. I would know that. That's a very big deal. It's not good to just fuck that up. And so I submit. Oh, and like, look, this even shows my new primary care provider, which is cool, and that's updated. Usually my charts show a primary care provider specific to that hospital system. So this one actually shows my real one instead of just that system's one. Like the one for MD Anderson shows Ross, I think, or it might show Herzog. I don't remember. Or they may have added someone new. I think it's changed a few times. Like one time it was one of the like surgical fellows under them or something, or maybe one of the surgical fellows under one of the other department chairs or something, and that because they were doing some sort of doctorate or something, and like that was the person like I would speak to on the phone for a while, things like that. Because that's what that means a lot of times, is like faxes might go to them first or to their email first and things like that, and also gets associated with them if they're working on something currently. So that's why for me, mine might change in each thing. So it's actually good, very good that I sent that one, because that'll help Medicaid and have less extraneous information. So you see this is just autoimmune documentation. This was things that I requested to get requested through Social Security, because it's important. See, like that, because this is all very difficult to get for someone like me, because it's like almost like research level stuff, hand done over a very, very long period of time, all very specific and proprietary, over multiple locations and things like that, and that's expensive. But Social Security will pay for it when you're doing your initial stuff. So my lawyer got like that in, and got all of the like potential things that could be related to neurology and other things ruled out, like any psych stuff, like because they have to, they had enough going on that, like legally at the time, unfortunately, they still had to rule out psychiatric and psychological stuff that I couldn't even have because my brain wasn't developed enough. But my brain was damaged enough to like, well, yeah, it's impossible, but we're gonna still have to like waste all of our time writing all of this shit up about something that can't happen. And that was done when I was like in high school and even before high school, just because medication things for the future, they have to prove like certain things so that something can't be done incorrectly, and so it's very in-depth and things. So I submitted all of that so that just what I had I gave, and see, like, this is just, no one can ask for anything more in depth than this, right? this is very, very in depth. I'm very thankful that I have this. And see, like this, I couldn't have afforded any of this. I still had to. I can't afford $20 to have like records sent because there's like some sort of nonsense individual state tax on requesting a record in some regard, and the court wants me to pay for it because their decision could be found that correct that I'm not supposed to have Medicaid. That means all the court costs are then put on me, which would mean the judge is probably going to be putting on in Angola, and then they get to be a judge helping out on legal affairs there, because the feds will go after someone for that. Like people might think $50 here or there on some pensioner is not gonna be an immediate sentence. No, that's what the Justice Department exists for. It's like that level of minutia. That's what they're there for. That's not good for me, but because I don't want to deal with it. But like if a judge is allowed to make a mistake because I'm not able to talk to them or whatever, then, or I don't get them what like in an extreme amount of information to where it's just information overload to where they're just like, okay, you know what, we're not dealing with this, we're not gonna make a mistake, he gets more medical benefits, slam the gavel down, whatever. Like if they have that ability themselves to do that, they'll do that. If they can access all of this and they just see all of this, they can't be angry at me for doing, like, even though they didn't ask me for it, and they might be like, oh great, he put all this together and like gave it to us, whatever. He's like subverting our ability to get rid of him. That's not how someone should look at it. It's more of, oh, we couldn't access the system was down because there's a federal shutdown, right? So yeah, oh, look at all this like medical-y stuff that he submitted. Oh, there's 1,000 pages in this one. Like that sounds like he's probably not lying about needing it. He gets his benefits. If they're unable to do that entirely, then I don't know, they're being set up probably on top of everything else, and now everybody's screwed. And because I don't know who they could, because if I'm sent to someone like that, like I have been before for certain things, I don't think they have the capacity anymore now that I am on Social Security to like finagle around that. I think that it's at the point to where I can't like say, no, I'm not disabled. I'm not on disability at this time. I can't say that. I won't say that too. Even if though I can lie, I'm just not going to. Just because I know that that's not in the interest of the United States. I wouldn't be on Social Security if that was the case. There were many, many years there where I could have been on Social Security, but I wasn't. I could have been on Social Security and still had no Social Security income coming in. Were like reserve benefits, been on a reserve military list, and still actively serving, but maybe not being able to go to school. Could have been a thing, but it wasn't. I barely convinced people to allow me to go to school. And I really mean barely. Wait, why is this here, not there? Oh, whatever. See, like, it's not very organized to it's there, and that's what's important, but like it's not quite. Ooh, wait, which is that one? When was this one done? Oh, good. What date was this? I'm just gonna screenshot this for later as a reminder. This will be for the surgeon. That was about getting cardiology workups because of migraines. You know, if I was on Social Security then, the cardiological component, which is still a possible factor because of medication, would not have been as much of a possible focus, which means things could have been missed and I could have been killed. Because I did have like one incident with one cardiology related thing because of a glucosinephrine related. I wasn't in lymphocytes then. Okay. White blood cells. Okay, they were 3.1. The other, a month ago. That's not good. I didn't even have 101 fever. So, like, a lot of different things. Is this the same one? Ah, no, this is my MD Anderson printout. I really like this. This is really nice. This system with this, just export like this. Very nice. A lot of physicians have actually like thanked me that this is what I gave them instead of like the previous thing. Because MD Anderson did a really good job on their notes like this. Notes. Very, very good for a physician to be looking at so they can feel more confident in saying something, things like that. Because I might say something and I might just be wrong, you know, because like they're able to like, you know, since I know so much and am like the only one who knows in most cases, just because that's just how things work out. It's not intentional. That's just how life is. This is the same thing but slightly different, I think. And this, that having the ability to look at something like that and actually like pull it up on their computer screen so that they can actually then be like, oh no, you're actually incorrect because of right here. This is what I was reviewing last night and this morning, like walking to see you on my cell phone because you sent this to us like 1 a.m. or something, like half asleep just trying to send something, and you didn't realize how, like, I guess I didn't realize how useful it was. And that was like a resident talking to me, well, like a hired, like a resident, and they're like a special like fellowship track under fellows, and having a bunch of them working on you at the same time, and people, you know, actively using technology like them, they very actively do. They catch things. That export function there, that's been very useful. So I don't know if that's going to matter to the state, but I think that's the first time I've sent that to the state. I don't think I've been able to send that to the state of Louisiana, to Medicaid, because I don't think my case has been opened again like this to where I can just drag and drop documents. They gave me the option to mail them everything, but as you can see, this is 3,000 pages, and I am currently in danger of having to pay back the extended possible, or whenever they made their decision which I guess technically is this month. And since I had a procedure done today, a bunch of other things, I had blood work, a bunch of blood work scheduled on Monday. I had other neurological stuff. I'm sure this is, I already had, the United States already spent $20,000-$30,000 on me this week. Probably on the low end. Like they're going to be delaying an MRI for me for neurology. Because it just has a little bit more checks behind it. If I actually lose insurance, they're probably going to not have that issue, because they'll fly in a stupidly expensive radioisotope to use. Because that's how they work it out, so that you can't be reasonably held like financially culpable for like non-payment of a test when you need the test done, and like the extension of not having the test done is nonsensical or like irrelevant, or someone like protesting you getting chemo or something like that, which all would be relevant to me. And that's how I know that. I don't know which one it would be nowadays. It depends on what comes out of the ground. They have pipelines for them and stuff. I used to know the exact one because they started asking me which specific iodine type they use at MD Anderson on me, because it might be different for kids than others, and also I may have just had too many done subsequently during a short time period that they just decided to always use the same one. And I knew a few times I had to wait for a long period of time at the hospital, like locally, to allow for them to walk it in with clearly a pilot holding a case. Because, they use it in the room with you, so of course they're going to speak to you to check your identity and stuff like that. So I might have to get woken up instead of just like, hook it up, start the machine. I'm just going to keep sleeping. And see, like, fees and stuff for Social Security all paid for. And this is like the decision thing that you get like sent, and it just, decision. Oh, and see, like at wage earner, there's no wage earner section there. I've never been a wage earner. See, fully favorable. Okay, I thought there was going to be more things there that would be useful. This actually might not be that helpful to the state. I don't think I have anything else that's like more helpful. But if they're concerned about Social Security sending them notice that I don't have Social Security, to Social Security, this letter with something saying notice of decision fully favorable is literally what I'm supposed to be giving outside people who like fuck up my circumstances. Even if they're not trying to or whatever, it's like if a state does that and they think they've got someone, that they're a criminal, that they're stealing from the United States, which happens all the time. Sometimes people are very hard to convince to stop doing that and acting like that the second they're like elected to some prosecutor's office or something at a state level. Even if they have good intentions, it's like it's tough not to put them to death for being good at their job, if that makes sense. It kind of is. There's a lot of good people who try to serve the United States in certain capacities. You'd kind of be surprised. They might be good enough to notice at glance, like, oh, well, of course not. He's him. Maybe that's why I know. But if I can explain instantly to them, like, why they shouldn't have done what like brought something forward and destroy like whatever thing they brought to substantiate it, it's at the point where they're in front of a judge, and like that's why they're someone called someone to, you know, speak to me to ask if I would like do someone a favor and you know, like just talk to them, because it's I could already tell it was already past the point of they're gonna get in trouble, and that might just mean they lose their job, and that really sucks because it probably was really difficult to get anybody in that kind of a job in the first place, just like politically and the money and stuff like that. That's just, they could have done good, but it's just kind of one of those things. It's probably the best thing that could have happened that wasn't like prison, because they wouldn't have spoken to me if they were gonna imprison someone, because I would have just screwed that up for everybody. Completely, like they would have excluded someone like me. I wouldn't have helped like the Justice Department imprison someone doing something that shouldn't have had. No, they always leave people like me out. Anyone like me, other elderly people, like we can't be prosecuted. So like someone like that, like who's old and probably, you know, seen that 100 times in their lifetime, instead of like a kid like me, basically, they're definitely not going to be allowed around, you know, because they're just going to run circles around everybody. I would screw it up because I'd probably just, you know, innocently and genuinely answer when spoken to, which without, you know, the ability to do what they could do. But neither of us should be there if it would be a criminal matter. So it'd be like a criminal matter that they're trying to like fire someone or something. I don't know what that would be called, but that would be what that would be. So like having the fully favorable thing to give someone, not everybody has that. But it's kind of stupid simple enough to, if they're not able to use this now that I've uploaded this and stuff, then we're going to have a serious problem, because I don't know, probably Inspector General would have to be contacted. I don't want to deal with that. All of this kind of stuff, it really wears on you and eats away at time. I have lots of things to do, and those things don't get done, and then years go by and I still don't have those things done. I'm very blessed to have health improvements enough in certain ways to do certain things, but you know, lots of other things that I could have happened that don't, because I have to, because you know, enough time passes to where enough idiot comes along to try to screw around with like my medical care or something politically. Because people do that constantly. Because it's not necessarily a crime to do that for normal people. It is for people like me. Taking away my Medicaid, that's a crime. Taking away someone who might qualify under Medicaid extension, I don't think that is. I don't qualify for Medicaid. I'm different. That's the whole point. It's kind of problematic that that it's occurring. It should say a lot if the staff that I spoke to last week, I couldn't even connect to them unless my insurance put me through their end, and they had to wait like almost half an hour for their supervisor to get out of their own meeting structure and stuff, which means they're at a level that they're probably not used to dealing with someone individually like myself and handling something like that, just so that then they could coordinate with them. And they, you know, it's fine for them to take all the time they needed with that. I was fine with that. I was very happy that I didn't get disconnected, because that was stressful, and it was a lot less stressful when they were agreed to just keep me on the line. Because, that means they can't do anything else. Locks up their computer and stuff. So, and it was like 2 hours. Like, I was on the phone with them. That was the 14th. And they had to, coordinate with their supervisor, fix stuff on their end, to then even speak to me again about being able to, like, open the thing on their end to the show even like this, so that I could, like, a week later upload stuff. And I still can't do anything else here, like, it says I can, like, mail stuff to it, but, like, and some of this stuff I don't think, but still, like, this, look at that. Oh, I actually think this number went up. I think this number here, I don't know, is this still the window? Yeah. This number here, I believe, was $20.99. Like, this, within this century or something like that. Like 99 years. Now it's $9,999. That's I like that. That's good. Whoever put that in, they did a good job. But see, this proof of resource info, like, again, that is proof of resource. That is, as most I can give is that. That's what resource means. I don't have resources. I am a resource. I'm a faucet for money. I'm not, like, fighting an uphill battle to, like, a commission or a panel or something that's being paid, or under a charitable trust that's also probably being paid just because they're efficiently doing it, and they wanted to and no one else did. So it's, it's the easiest way to get something done, and they are basically like a company, but just not subcontracting, and then they just find people who are highly educated to do the thing they're doing, and that's what they do in their free time. And they, like, scrutinize, interview people to get something. That's something you usually do to, like, cities and towns and things like that, when they're gonna get resources, major resources, under, like, their discretion. That's what that is. But, like, they might do it to people. That's not how that works for Social Security for someone like me. I don't even know if you can be fully favorable if you're not a U.S. citizen, or if you're not, like, within the same immigration context as me. I don't know how it works for other people. I just kind of don't know. I don't know if that's defined at all, but I know that, like, all of the context I've ever seen of what that could mean, like, of demonstrating the resources, has, even from what I learned in school, was always based upon what someone could bring to our nation, and, like, off of a boat. Which might not technically be how someone would think of my circumstances. So, because I've always seen a very big deviation from mine, and how, like, anything is taught, or how, being in the system myself, like, seen. I kind of just don't believe that I didn't just also get lucky in that regard. But I have, no proof to say either way. I just, but, like, having statements like it does up here, proof of resource info, I just can't provide that. I don't, Because Social Security money doesn't count as a resource. It's not countable. It's not taxable. And the state can't tax me too. But the state can't tax me for other reasons as well. I'm untaxable and the state gets paid for that. But the state of Louisiana might also be separate in that. I know if I lived in California and wasn't born in California, but lived, they could still claim partiality or something to property that I would be guaranteed because of the United States and because of my status. So basically, the United States could eminent domain anything that I might live in, just because the United States also wants it and is owed it, basically. Doesn't always mean they're going to, but it's like a super strongly suggested thing. California can get a cut, but they're like the only state that I was told could be relevant in that. And I only learned about that because of my mother was like, and part of my family was like from there. Another family kind of lived there for a time period. Lots of people live in California and then move out of California and stuff like that. So it's like one of those rare circumstances that like it's just like, here's a brochure. It's always on the brochure type of a deal. It would make more sense if anybody who sees this is elderly and it ever visits a Social Security office, there's going to be a brochure about something like that. Take my word for it. But that can't happen in Louisiana, for me. And the state benefits from that. So but my family's also French. And I don't think any of us have gotten taxed at the state level, technically. I think it's always been federal. I think they stopped taxing, like, even my father at some point because the feds, like, took more or something or less. The state decided at some point to include, like, everybody by, like, familial lineage because, like, why not? We get more money. It helps us get FEMA money and stuff like that, and that helps you because that, like, lowers your ability here so your flood insurance costs less. Because you live in an area with enough people who are, like, within this group or something like that, if that makes sense. Or anybody within this group, which means basically it covers the whole state. Maybe it didn't before because Katrina happened and it displaced enough people, but enough people moved back, and so all of a sudden there was enough people in enough areas or whatever that federally designated the whole state as a blanket. So FEMA something now could finally apply, so it wasn't super expensive to have a house like right down the street because of elevation, because a levee broke in the other town over and your house sunk like a foot. But that house was $500,000 and then you got a mortgage out for it. And now you might not even be able to live in the parish because your flood insurance went from $1,000 or something a month to $6,000. That's the difference between families moving or not, because now you're underwater enough towards like you're living out in the middle of nowhere on your own and the feds can't compensate for you, but you're still in the same neighborhood. That's Louisiana's circumstance. And I think that's what changed. And through all of that, they changed tax stuff for us. And that's about as far as I learned about that until it just was clear it was never going to affect me. There was exclusions for certain education things for the Air Force and requirements for other things. Basically, it was like you're not employed federally yet, but like you're owned federally now. So like the states are not allowed to like talk to you about taxes because that hinders the United States or something like that. Like that was the relationship it became. So you're like approached and spoken to about that, but the first thing they know is like, aren't you basically like qualified for disability? And I'm like, oh yeah, you would know that because of access to the state's education records and things like that. Yes, that's correct. And they're like, oh, okay, well here we can, even though you're too smart for it, we're gonna add to your thing with TOPS or something like tax stuff. So like LSU got money or something like that, like probably a couple $100, but that it's scale that helps, and no one minds because it's probably like a checkbox or something that I can't check, but it's the type of thing that a state as poor as ours, everybody just learns about it and keeps it in the back of their head eventually, just because that's what you need to survive when everything gets flooded and destroyed in a hurricane every few years or so. That's just how it is. See, how this is phrased there, that almost makes me believe they're tallying up everything that I'm getting from the United States as the United States, because that would be myself. Are they putting everything into a treasury account? That's a good idea. That can accrue interest or something, and that can help out later on. There's not that many ways for the state to do that, so that's a good idea. Using like my status to do that, that's a good idea. Because that doesn't affect me negatively. I don't pay because I'm not allowed to. Trying to make me would be committing a felony because that would be going against the United States. Doesn't mean they won't still succeed in doing it. They absolutely can. That they can in other states, especially. This state doesn't really have a culture of that happening, but that's one of the largest threats to people who are disabled at all and the elderly and things like that. They get their houses taken away, they get their skulls crushed, things like that, just from normal court procedures to constant threat. It's just a crime thing. But being able to draw more money because you're efficiently using each of us as a resource like you're supposed to, that's a good idea. But having 9,999 years to do it means it's not my problem, not my job. So someone else is assigned to do it. Having it December 1st means it is my job. I don't work. I don't have a job. I'm retired. That's the difference. And if they're complaining about Social Security, saying that Social Security told them that I don't have Social Security when I have been told by Social Security that I have Social Security. And Social Security doesn't count as a resource. And this didn't say medical information before. I'm pretty sure it was just those 2 bullet points, but I actually don't know for sure. And since they don't have text messages working right now, because for some reason, I don't know why they didn't let me validate things like that. messages they could send me through text. I'm pretty sure all of like two-factor authentication is working fine, but that is probably federal. I don't know why the state has to pay to send me text messages as notices, but they shouldn't have that as a thing. Because I had that set up before, and that was checked. I checked on the 19th, and I checked on the 19th. When I was clicking around and it was clear, I had already had that as my setting, set up manually by myself. And since I wasn't asked by their personnel, like if I want to opt into something like this, I believe all of that, like more advanced stuff, was all just done by me, because it's just the stuff I do by default when I'm trying to just, set up to where I get two-factor authentication normally. Even though most people don't do that, I do that by when I sign up for an account so that I don't have to do it later. Even if I have to like click around a little to do it. But it told me explicitly that I was not capable of receiving any communication, basically, or information, even though like the system did exist. And it wasn't like, because it was in maintenance, it was like voided somehow, but not as though it was a benefit, but just like I don't get it now for no reason. And I'm pretty sure it's not shutdown related, because why would any of this be happening if the feds were paying for something and if all the other validation with Social Security is still working? So I don't think that like they have reviewed this and those two bullet points changed. Even though I didn't print out this page, I don't think. So I have no idea. But that's the type of thing that they would have sent me a text message. Oh, we now need 2 things from you instead of 4 or 5 or whatever. That would have been how it would have gotten sent automatically. Is this here? This is where what that's for. Not being able to have it means that I'm not like supposed to be doing this, basically. It's another indicator of that from like a design perspective for the software. And if you look at like, I believe I clicked this earlier, there was no application. See, there's no application, right? And I've never submitted one in the past 5 years, right? So and I don't believe it ever said I submitted one, because I never submitted an application for Medicaid. I was just on it. Does that go to the same place? Yeah, it goes to the same place. This is the only thing that is on my account. And you can see that it shows there for some reason, but I have Medicaid before that too. So I don't know. I think they may have given me a new Medicaid card on that date. Potentially. Or Aetna may have given me another card. I think that's what that means, but I'm not sure. I think I've discussed everything I had thought of that I needed to go through about the website and the order of how things have gone in the last week before I do anything else. It's 4, so that's not bad. Okay, let me change to Social Security now. Explicitly. Because, I'm not going to show much just because, but like, this is what, proof of how kind of stupid this is. So, see this here? I haven't received this yet, but that's because it's an increase. But like, look at how it says the same thing. On Social Security's context, they handle all of the United States' pensions and things too. Like on contract, they have for probably since longer than my parents have been alive. Maybe not my grandparents, but my parents at least. I don't know if everybody's Social Security portal will Like I said, the camera went up again. Everybody's Social Security portal will show something like this, but there we go. But you can see, like, it says disability in two places. You can assume the thing to the left of that is the plan, like railroad retirement, or like postal service worker, thing in this state here, or National Guard for this state here, or something. Like, if you got like 10 different things under your benefits and payments that's all supposed to like coagulate together, one of them could be $5 or something like that, because you got activated for combat like when you were like 17 or something and still in high school, and you moved one box of ammunition at like the depot, and then they noticed that like there was a bunch of kids that could have been dicking around, so they were like, all of you you guys all go home. So like you got a whole month or something, because no one wanted you guys to be just dropped off in combat, because back then that's what they did. If that happened, you wouldn't just enter a training program, you wouldn't go to boot camp, you wouldn't do all of that first if you hadn't reached the age to do that yet, because you'd have to just be older to do certain things by how like funding is set up, just because that's when everything was starting. And this would have been like after Vietnam, maybe, or maybe before Vietnam. I know multiple contexts with both, and that people have told me about with their own lives. So like, you could easily have gotten, in like back then money, a flat amount of money that might not adjust for inflation, if that makes sense. That would be added to this eventually somehow. They're really good at that. That's just how this works. I don't really understand it at all, but like no one is kind of like supposed to. But it just, that's how it is. Everybody can just assume it's magic, and I'm fine with assuming that is it as well. And you see how, in my understanding is very simplistic, because it's allowed to be. It's that uncomplicated. I can direct people to the Social Security Act, and I'm one of the only people that has their whole life circumstance detailed in the Act. Like, people can't fuck with people like me, because there is an Act that everybody else has to rely on, but it doesn't talk about anybody else. It talks about people like me. That's the whole point. So if like there was like a template for like how something was supposed to be spoken of, it might say something like this. I don't know if it would. It might not be quite as modern, but I wouldn't be shocked if you might be able to copy and paste this string in parentheses next to it with as that amount of spaces, potentially, if you can do it like copy and paste. You can download a lot of different versions of the Act. You might have to pull up the whole Constitution as a PDF, like export the entire thing. And then because of how it would be exported with the text itself, you'll actually be able to Control F and then find the actual spot. And then just do that on 10 different versions from 10 different websites related to Congress, and you'd be really surprised. It'll put you right to the right spot, and you'll just be staring at it, and it'll be like, this is how we're proposing it look. But they're not. It's probably so non-specific. You would have to be someone like myself with software background to understand. They actually got one of the people who did that back then to write it like that just so that they didn't, write it like they would have normally done back then. And it include more information, like specifics to it, because then it would be like a draft or like a blueprint or something. And back then, that kind of stuff was super complicated and like legally enforced, outside of very specific contexts. So it'd be like walking down the hall and pulling someone out and then being like, "Hey, do this thing, like how you would do it. Write it down on like a piece of note paper or something." And they probably just entered that in, or made it look pretty and then did it. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I'd say copy and paste, because I don't really believe that won't work, because that's totally worked for me in the past. And before, I didn't have two little boxes. Actually, I might not have even had one. It may have had a different section that directed me to click on something that would then export like a PDF or something. But now it has two boxes. And they're the same thing in parentheses. And they're both Social Security. And the state doesn't even call it the right thing. But they do use the word disability. So if you're using just the word disability between the words disability, I'm obviously still receiving disability. It just went up. I didn't get something new that would be a different number. I got something clearly added to my disability. But note how they're both still called disability. And it shows the last time I received the lower amount. But they're still called disability, both of them. I don't really believe Social Security told them that I'm no longer receiving Social Security, since they apparently got informed before I did, that like a month before I did, by far, that I would no longer be receiving Social Security. And the state didn't think to tell me, and they didn't text me either. They didn't send me any letters in the mail either, until today, I believe. Yeah, I think today. Actually, yeah, because on the 14th, I got informed of this as an issue by Meditrans, by one of their, or the 13th by Meditrans, and they contacted me on the 14th after they escalated it through their supervisor, and like their supervisor's like supervisor, so that they could figure out exactly, because they have other access, because they're the transit for us, so that they could make sure that they got us where we need to go, because that's their job. And then they just have the ability themselves to contact me, like myself, because they're like, points of contact directly, due to it being that relationship, without like a bunch of different barriers or a bunch of different people who could handle that. That's like the only thing that someone like myself has to handle themselves. It's a lot sometimes, but I've learned how to do it, and they do a good job. And they gave me the heads up. I would have had zero notice at all. I may not have even received this letter if I didn't then go to Aetna, then call the state. Like on December, I just wouldn't have had insurance somehow, is what the state's declaring, or declared to, Meditrans, because they were denying Meditrans's ability and authority to schedule rides. Even though my coverage was still current for this month, they were telling Meditrans that I could not go to my appointment on the 19th that I went to this week. Which is still within the month of November. And that's what my insurance said too. They were like, yeah, but you still have coverage. You should be able to renew Medicaid, or you should even. And then they listened to me about how I've never done it before, and Medicaid. It didn't give me the option to on their website and things like that. And the account had no information, no options. Like the Mad Cases things here, nothing was there. I clicked on all the little things, and there was nothing. There was like under the benefits and stuff, it had my Medicaid, I think, or it may have had no information too. It's supposed to be blank for a reason, so that you're not stressing out about it and believing that this is like a resource for you with information. It's clearly how it is. It's supposed to work. You're not supposed to think about it or look at it until after you're on it. It's what I believe from how it worked with me, you know? Forcing them to give me access to upload documents and stuff is, well, that's just not supposed to happen. But they're also not supposed to believe whatever minimal information they can see that the state has stated that Social Security told them. I'm not receiving Social Security, and would have had to have done so in like August or September, because I kept getting the money. It would have meant I didn't get money this month. Or in October, because in October we got 2 payments because of how the bank holidays worked, technically. So if they were going by bank statements or wires, which I don't think they were, because I don't think that they necessarily had that access or information. I mean, certainly this site doesn't give me any ability to provide, like, link with my account or anything, which I don't mind. I'm happy to do that. If that's what the resource information they need to see is, yeah, sure, great. But it's not been open for me to do that if that's the case. So if that was the case, it still wouldn't be correct, because I think some of the stuff they were saying was on their end done before October 30th, and I think I got November's payment the last day of October or something like that. So that would have meant that they'd or whatever. So they, what does it say? That, yeah, October 30th, last day here. I'm doing it off the top of my head, and it says it on the site, and I'm not even looking at the site. That's just how used to the SSI payment structure I am now. It stressed me out the first little while. Like, it was hard to deal with. It's something you learn over time and get more confident in. It's that confidence that allows you to try to take out loans or get a credit card, or even confidently say to someone over the phone financially that, yes, it's going to come in through this date, because that's what they're looking for, is like your belief that it's always going to be there. That's what changes things in my direct experience. Because we're just different. It is always just going to be there on the date that it is. I know that not everybody else is as fortunate for that, because this might come partially from pension things and stuff like that, or brought through other nation states through their whatever social thing would be pension stuff. And that's what matters to people in financial context. That's what they can gauge it off of how you speak to them to deny or approve stuff. they won't like. I mean, sometimes I have been procced on like a certain thing I should have said possibly because I like got really close to that because of my uncertainty. But that's how I learned, and it was like if I was unsure, usually I would have like called someone to have them check or something like that because in that circumstance it was like a family member who may still like live overseas or some shit like that, and that's like, oh, that's never been my circumstance at all. I had no idea I had led someone down a train of questions that could have even possibly contained that as a context, because that's entirely never going to be the case for anybody in my family. It's impossible. But that shows how rare it is. The United States has been around for 200 years now. It's not just the default anymore. I guess I can do that. See, this, I did that too. I live streamed that because, wait. I think I did. Or I tried to. Oh no, wait, no, I failed to answer the call. Because I screwed something up. I made an effort to document things successfully myself, but did not do a good job, I think. But the thing before that, I did document successfully. I don't even remember what date that was, though, clearly, because I'm looking at that and I'm like, nope, that was the time I screwed something up. And thankfully, they were able to reach me through like a courtesy call because Social Security already had all my information, and the judge was allowed to just do that because they clearly were a judge. And not just like a normal employee or something. And so I was like, I thanked them and stuff for doing that. That was appreciated. And this. Have I received that? I don't know. I checked the website between that time period or something, and actually this is different. The website updated like since the last time I've looked at it, and looks nice with all of this. I probably looked at what they were supposed to have sent before they even could have sent that, and I probably clicked request for too many times for too many different things, too frequently. So I probably generated other forms that were not whatever that was. So I don't think I got that, but that's fine. I don't need it. I think this here is enough. What's this? I'm not doing that right now. Oh. Okay, well, it kicked me out, so. Security statement. It's probably just gonna take me to the statement of benefits, which was to the right of that. If I hovered over the link before I clicked it, which I would have done if it hadn't have logged me out, it probably was gonna say the same thing, which was like, statement of benefit, generate link or list of the ones that you've generated in the past or whatever. Which is like a bank statement. It's like looking at the statements in your bank statement thing. Like if you click on statements for like your monthly statements from like a bank account or something. It's like that. It just only says one thing, and that's that payment for that month, because that's how Social Security works. It's just like It'd be like if the only line item on your bank for that month and it doesn't carry over was that. I don't know if that's a financial term for like some, because it's not listed as like a transfer or something. It's like, it looks to me like a financial thingy for the bank had this balance this day, but or this month with like no other details or something. It might be something. The money gets generated by Treasury, so I don't know. There's probably some thing on Treasury's website that says exactly what I was talking about, that, or like on some like, you know, a website that I've used a lot to learn finance stuff. Probably not hard to find that information. It's tertiary. It's 4. Okay, I'm gonna call back Oshner, and then I'm gonna leave a voicemail for my congressman later tonight.